Good morning, loved ones. It is my birthday. It is actually my birthday, and it is early in the morning where I am. And I wanted to get up and have this conversation with you because I had originally planned to, on my birthday, come and talk about one of the biggest lessons that I've learned over my life, over these 43 years of my life, because I turned 43 today. Um, but when I woke up this morning, something different got downloaded for me to discuss. So when I woke up this morning, I woke up and I grabbed a poetry book and I opened my blinds, well, actually my curtains, and let the sunlight into my room. And I laid across the bed and I was reading some poetry. And then I got up and I wrote a poem. And after I wrote that poem, I did a meditation and I kind of asked, and this is what I do pretty much usually on each year, new year of my life. I ask what this year has for me. Like, what is the invitation for this year for me? Who is this year asking me to become? What is this year asking me to do more of? What is it inviting me to focus more on so that I can become um, a bigger version of myself, a more happy version of myself, a more well version of myself. And so when I got up this morning, I asked that question, and what got downloaded, it literally like kind of fell on my body like someone was pouring warm honey like all over my body. This is kind of the feeling that it was. And it was this feeling of honoring myself, like self honoring. And so I wanted to talk about what self honoring is and why that's my invitation for this year, particularly. Um, so instead of my greatest lesson that I learned in these 43 years, I'll do that in the next episode. Today, I want to talk about self honoring. So, self honoring. You've heard me talk a lot about self love. That is my greatest message. That is what I know I'm here on the planet to speak about, that I'm here to teach. And over the years, I've described self love in many different ways, tried to get at it in many different ways. Really, the essence of what I was saying was the same, but I've been trying to find kind of the right description and definition of it. And because I know that the definition that most of us have been given regarding by our cultures, by our societies, by our environments, about what love is, particularly, and especially self love, is very basic and flat. It's usually just about affection. It's usually, when we think about even self love, what we're thinking about is usually, do I take hot baths and do I get spa treatments and do I buy the things that I want for myself? And do I say a kind affirmation to myself in the mirror every once in a while? And what I learned in my journey after my near-death experience is self-love is so much bigger than that. It's so much more vast than that. It is so much more important than that. It is so much more nutritious than that. It is so much more life depending, right? Our lives depend on it much more than this basic and flat definition that we have. And I've been trying to, the best I knew how in these past few years that I've been talking about self-love, really kind of get to the core of what it is. And what basically, what I know is that love is, I've talked about it being what our soul is, right? That it is the essence of our soul, that it is what we are made of and made for and made from, that it is source, that it is freedom and worthiness, and it is joy and bliss and empowerment, and it is ease and safety. Like, these are all other words for love. These are all other words for your soul, that it is an energy that permeates all things. um, but what I really have grounded and landed into is talking about it as the soul. Like, if you understand that love is the energy of the soul, and that when we are loving ourselves, we are giving ourselves the energy of our soul. We are allowing ourselves to embody it. We are doing what it takes to nourish it. And we are doing what it takes to honor it and no longer dishonor it. And those are kind of the three major kind of pillars of self-love that I have learned in these 43 years, is that it's about embodying and expressing the essence of our soul, that it is about nourishing that essence, like doing what it takes to feed the essence of our soul, the energy of our soul, so that our soul is very well nourished so that it can grow, because it is supposed to grow. That is what we are here for, is to grow the energy, to expand the energy of the soul and to honor it. And this is kind of what, this year has been about for me. Last year, actually, I'll start 2 years ago. So 2020 was very much about, for me, it was about really learning how to embody and express the energy of my soul. I had lived many years of my life because of trauma and because of cultural conditioning, suppressing aspects of my soul. There were parts of who my authentic self that I was made to believe weren't safe to express, or weren't, if I did express them, I wouldn't be loved somehow. And so since my childhood, there are many aspects of my soul that I would suppress. I suppressed my sexuality. I suppressed certain of my beliefs, my spiritual gifts I suppressed. My intuitive and psychic gifts. I suppressed a lot of things about myself. I wouldn't speak up for myself. I wouldn't say things, what I really wanted to say and what I really believed, for fear that I would be rejected for it or abandoned. And so 2020 was really about me coming back home to the full expression of myself, like really owning all the parts of myself and expressing them, bringing them to the light. And I did that more and more, right? And I definitely became a more embodied version of the essence of my soul in 2020. There was a lot of things that I did. I started my online community at that time, Self Love Academy, which is now an online course. But I started my online community because I wanted to share all these things that I had been learning, that I had not been, in my healing journey, and through my intuitive gifts that I hadn't been sharing publicly. That was a way for me to express more of myself. I did a lot of things with the aspects of my femininity. I was only taught that only my masculine aspects could be expressed since I am a man. I began to express more of my feminine aspects in 2020. And so 2020 was a lot about, for me, expressing myself and embodying the energy of my soul and no longer suppressing it or hiding aspects of it or denying aspects of it. And last year, 2021, for me, was about learning how to nourish more of my soul, right? And so that looked like doing what feeds my soul more. So that was a lot of self-appreciation. That was a lot of working in my passions. That was a lot of doing what really fulfilled me and prioritizing that. There was a lot of saying no, right? So that I could really focus on my yeses. There was a lot of rest, because rest is also nourishment. So learning how to keep my schedule from being overwhelmed, learning how to stop overexerting myself and really do what nourishes the energy of my soul. And so as I said goodbye to my last year, the last day of my 42nd year, it was not my last year, but as I said goodbye to my last day of my 42nd year, last night, I looked over what my whole year was really about, like what the theme of it was. It was really about learning how to nourish myself. I crossed some things off on my bucket list last year. One of the things I did was I drove down the California coast with one of my friends that has been on my list for a long time, and that really fed me. And being well nourished increases our sense of joy and our sense of happiness, right? And so I'm definitely more happy now than I have been in a long time. And I feel more connected to myself and more alive. And as always, as each new year comes, my greatest intention is, how can I love myself more? Like, how can I become more of the essence of my soul in this body and in this lifetime? And what is that? What's the invitation for me around that? And the answer that I got for this year, for 2020. So last year was nourishment, 2020 was expression, and this year is honoring. And that self-honoring is about really no longer betraying ourselves or abandoning ourselves, right? That's about keeping our word to ourselves. Like, if we say we're going to do something, that we go through with it, that we keep our promises to ourselves, that we support ourselves, that we help. Like, this is, let me change this to I statement, since I'm going to be speaking this from my perspective for my year. This is about supporting myself, right? This is about doing what I need to do to support myself, support my dreams, support my health, support myself financially, like support my business, like doing what I need to do to support myself, keeping my word to myself, honoring my boundaries, right? Boundaries is a part of honoring ourselves. So, honoring ourselves is how, what the focus of honoring ourselves is really in this aspect of when we're talking about loving ourselves, and understanding that loving ourselves is about becoming more of our soul and not less, right? That is, if I can sum up self-love in just a real one sentence, what it's all about, it is about becoming more of our soul and not less. And it is the practice that helps us do that. And so when we honor ourselves, what honoring really is about is, it's the practices that we do to keep ourselves from leaving the energy of our soul, right? So when we're not honoring ourselves, we are betraying or abandoning this energy, right? We're leaving home from it. We're not bringing it into the body and expressing it into our lives. We are either suppressing it, or we are hiding it, or we are disconnecting from it, and it's not being expressed. So honoring ourselves is the key way in which we allow our soul to be here in us and express through us. And again, these ways for me is, I think some of the ways for me that I'm being asked, particularly to focus on this year, are to finish what I say I want to do. Right. There's some projects I have. I'm writing a poetry book right now. I'm very close to finishing it. I want to finish it and release it, and launch it out for purchase. I want to, this year, I have fitness goals, right? And to honor myself is to do what I believe that I need to be doing in order to help those goals manifest, right? So to be consistent with my workouts, to be consistent with my nutrition and my eating, to keep my word to myself. If I say that I want to do something, or I don't want to do something, keep my word to myself, to go through it until that changes for me, until the honest desire for that changes. Like, if I say I want to do something and I honestly have a desire to no longer do that thing, like that is no longer of interest to me, or that is no longer yearning, then it's okay for me to leave that thing, to leave it and to go do something else. But if I really do want to do that thing and I get distracted by something else, and I go, which is in my history, is something I can do easily, is get distracted by something else. If another shiny object comes and I get distracted by that, I have abandoned myself, because I said this was important to me and I wanted to do this, and I'm not doing it. And that is abandonment. And that is not benign on us. That disconnects us from our energy. And this is another thing which I'll talk about in the next episode, which I talked about because I said I was going to talk about one of the biggest lessons I learned in my 42 years. This connects in with that. But when we abandon and betray ourselves, there are two major things that happen, right? When we don't honor ourselves. I call it abandonment and betrayal. You can also call it dishonor, when you're dishonoring yourself. One of the things, there are two things that really happen with that. And one of them is when you disconnect from your soul's energy, your vibration and your frequency gets jacked. So it's impossible to have a very high vibration when you are betraying yourself or abandoning yourself in some type of way, because your soul's energy is the literal energy that raises your vibration. The more embodied you are of your soul, the higher your frequency is going to be, the higher you're going to vibrate. And so when you're abandoning yourself, or you're betraying yourself, you're literally leaving pieces, like pieces of your soul are not going to be in the body. And so your frequency is not going to be as high. And what ends up happening is you can't attract your good to you as easily. You won't attract it as frequently. You'll find that your dreams don't manifest. You'll find that the things that you have on your vision board and that you're praying for and you're meditating about, they don't come. And it's not because you don't deserve them. And it's not because you're not asking enough or that the universe didn't hear you. It's because you don't have an energy that is going to allow you to receive that. So that's why that's really important to no longer betray yourself, to really work on honoring yourself, like really moving through life as a self-honoring person. The other thing is that when we betray ourselves and when we abandon ourselves in this way, right, when we don't keep our words to ourselves, when we don't honor our boundaries, when we don't, do what we say we're going to do, when we don't support ourselves, when we don't respect ourselves in ways, what ends up happening also is this robs the body of the energy of your soul. And that is where a lot of illness comes from. Because remember, disease is lack of the soul's energy in the body. And so this is not benign, right? It's not benign on your well-being of your life, because you won't be able to manifest the things that make you feel fulfilled and happy and enjoying this life experience. And your health is going to also deteriorate when you are continually self betraying yourself and abandoning yourself. So this is why for me this year, this was another invitation. Like, I want to take my health to an even higher level of wellness, and I want to take my life to an even higher level of bliss. And that's about honoring myself, right? More, that's the invitation that my soul dropped on me this morning for my birthday. A great birthday gift for me. And my journey this year is going to look at the ways in which I can honor myself even more. I know, again, I've listed some of them. One is to keep my word to myself. Two is to stay focused until completion upon the things that I say I want to do. And I do really good with honoring my boundaries. So just continue with that. But any other way that as I look at, like, how am I being asked to honor myself more, I'm going to look at that and also look at where I'm not honoring myself and stop doing that. I know for a fact that I haven't really been honoring myself around my fitness journey, particularly with my nutrition. I haven't been as consistent as I actually am yearning to be. So I want to do that because I want to honor myself, right? And it's not something that I have changed my mind about. I have still wanted to do that, and to want something and to be in resistance to that in some way is, again, not benign to our system at all. So I'm wanting to clear that up. And I'm going to take some journal time this next week and look at the other areas in which I want to do that. But that is kind of my birthday aha or invitation for me. And if any of you all out there are going to have a birthday soon, or even if you're not, you can always just take tomorrow as a new day for yourself. And you can look at, like, what is the rest of this year have for me? What is the invitation for me for the rest of this year? How am I being invited to love myself more for this remaining year or this new year of my life? Try to take a pen and paper and try that out and see. It's usually going to fall within one of those three things. You're going to be either being asked to express more of your true self, to embody more of the truth of your soul, or to nourish your soul, the essence of who you are, to nourish yourself more, or to honor yourself more, right? And how are you being asked to do that? And look at that. And in honoring myself, actually, before we end today, if you would like to help me celebrate my birthday in any type of way, you want to buy me a cup of tea, or you want to buy me a piece of cake, because I'm going to have both of those things today. I would welcome your gifts or donations, you can send it to my Cash App, which is the $, and the initial J, and then my last name Braggs, and then the number 40. So that's $J Braggs 40. Or you can send it to my PayPal, which is Jerome@JeromeBraggs.com, if you'd like to help me celebrate my birthday today. If not, it's totally okay. I don't hold any ill will. I just know many of you ask, how can you support me in ways, or how can you gift me in ways? And that's how you can, especially for today. Thank you all for listening. I will come back soon and give you what the biggest lesson I've learned in my last 43 years was. But until then, thank you for listening. I'm going to go enjoy my birthday. Outside is calling me. I'm also going to go to the gym, and I've got a party to go to tonight. So good stuff on the docket. Until next time, as always, I love you. Knuckle love yourself.